Hello and welcome back. We all know that the Ashimmu is one of the most feared ships in the game. It is also one of the best PvP ships in the game. I've been flying it for some time now, have been very happy with it, and will of course continue to fly it into PvP. But that raises the question, can you make a ship or a build that can counter the Ashimmu? Because, well, this ship does have its weaknesses. It is, after all, not perfect. It has its strengths and, of course, it has its weaknesses that I'll be covering here. And, of course, with that being said, let's take a look at the ship info. Before you start countering a ship, it is good that you know its strengths and weaknesses. That way you can take advantage of the holes, while at the same time you can be careful around the things that it is actually good at. Okay, well, repair laser and electronic warfare. That's pretty much the trait of the Ashimmu, all of which are components that are crucial for PvP. Minus 100% energy Nosferatu overall penalty. That means it can kill your capacitor very quickly without giving you the chance to actually recover it. And of course, the electronic warfare bonus will give it some very dangerous bonuses on Nosferatus, neutralizers, and webifiers. Again, all of which is very crucial for PvP. It gives the Ashimmu advantage in close and medium range combat. It also has bonuses on lasers, specifically bonus on the damage and on tracking. No range bonus. Okay, that's one thing that you should already note. Okay, well, let me quickly show you the fits that I use on the Ashimmu. I mean, I think this is one of the most basic fits that you are going to see from Ashimmu pilots. In the high slots, they're going to use either pulse lasers or beam lasers. Pulse lasers for DPS, beam lasers for safety and range. My personal favorites are beam lasers because of my current situation. I am being actively hunted in the game, and range can save my skin a lot of times. In the medium slots, if you're countering a Ashimmu that is built for medium range combat, it will most likely have dual webs, one scrambler or disruptor, and one large Nosferatu. That is actually one of the most common fits that you are going to find on these ships. Of course, you can switch out these modules if you like, but in this case, this is one of the most common fits that you are going to find. Again, the difference between pulse and beam lasers is the range. Pulse lasers have shorter range, higher DPS, while beam lasers have higher range, longer range, and slower rate of fire. Both are very dangerous weapons. Both do EM and thermal damage. They eat shields very quickly. And of course, there you can see the necessary skills for these weapons that you need to have. In PvP, I personally prefer to use beam lasers because of safety. Now, the Ashimmu can do a shield and armor tank. The armor will be repaired in the upcoming balance patch, hopefully. And I'll be playing around with the armor tank and shield tank. We'll be comparing them to see which one is actually going to work best for the Ashimmu. With the beams, like I said before, dual webs, one large nose, and either one disruptor or one scrambler. I personally like to use the range setup because the optimal ranges of all of these modules are lining up very nicely. With pulse lasers, you are going to go up to close range, up to 15 kilometers, and you can either go with a neutralizer or dual Nosferatus. Having a neutralizer is going to be good because it can kill capacitors very quickly, and you don't want to be anywhere near an Ashimmu that can kill your capacitor, especially if your ship relies on energy weapons like, for example, railguns and lasers. If you lose your capacitor, you pretty much lose your primary weapons, and you are going to be an easy target. Now, defense-wise, this ship is built for a shield tank. These are my rigs. Again, very common to see Ashimmus flying around with a similar rig setup, so In my case, I only have that one laser burst aerator, while I've seen other Ashimmus go for full shield tank and full shield defense. I decided to go with one DPS rig just to improve its DPS a little bit, and in the engineering rigs, full on power grid rigs to be able to equip dual, either a large NOS and a large shield booster that I currently have equipped here. And well, let's go on to the ship that will be countering the Ashimmu. Now I've been thinking about what ship to take for this. A lot of ships have the traits that I need, but I think I'll be starting with one of the more well-known ships in my hangar over here, with my Cynabal. That ship has currently, I think, the best skills and best bonuses that I need for this type of job. So let me quickly hop into my Cynabal over here, and I'll be showing the ship's bonuses again, and I'll be explaining why I specifically picked this ship to be the first one. Okay, that's the Cynabal. You can kind of do the same with other cruisers. Stabber Fleet Issue can also do the job. They also have very similar stats, and they perform quite similarly to the Cynabal. And you can also do the same with the Tornado and Tornado 2, because they also have very similar traits and very similar performance. Now let's go on to the ship statistics. Surprisingly, I did not know that this supposedly should be a armor tank. I prefer shield tank on my Cynabal, it just works flawlessly without a problem. Cannons and armor. Okay, so the Cynabal is one of those ships that has the highest possible DPS of any cruiser in the game, and it is also very fast. I think it is the fastest cruiser in the game. It can reach velocities up to 4 kilometers per second. It is very fast for a cruiser. Now on to the description. Raw bonus, warp speed, warp acceleration, and damage control activation time, all of which are very good for hit and run operations. And of course, the damage control will give you slightly more seconds, and it will give you a little bit more juice out of that damage control. And the rest are all bonuses for turrets. And all of the ship's bonuses literally cover all turret traits, from range to damage to rate of fire to accuracy fall-off. So this is a ship that can have good DPS, good rate of fire, and good range. And in this case, I really need a ship that has good range, and I'll explain why. So currently 598.06 DPS, almost 600 DPS, using C-type medium strike cannons. I like to call them artillery because, well, I like to use the EVE Online terminology. It works, I think it works better. Range up to 35 kilometers. That is a little bit more than the Ashimmu can web and can point, so that's already a good start. It is also above the pointing range from basically any ship, besides I think the Orthus and Vigilant. They can point you at 35 kilometers, I believe. And in the medium slot, one target painter, disruptor, and webifer, mainly used for defense. You can change the disruptor into a scrambler if you like, for frigate defense, mainly because the turrets can have a problem tracking targets that are in close proximity. After all, this is a kiting fit. That means no ship should be close to you. Now, surprisingly, I can fit a scrambler with this fit. That means I'll have to change something in the low slots. I need a little bit more power grid, and I think with the expert engineering skills I can fix this, so I'll definitely do that. For now, there will be a disruptor. Yeah, but this is basically almost at the edge. Micro warp drive, dual gyros, one tracking computer, and the large shield booster in the low slots. Now, this might be a risky fit, but I don't plan on getting hit. This is basically a runner fit. You are going to be engaging your targets at 40-45 kilometers, way above the maximum range of Ashimmu's webs and weapons, and of course, most importantly, way above the ranges of its Nosferatus and neutralizers. If you don't like to have dual gyros, you can take one damage control or the other shield hardeners. They also work quite well, but you will be sacrificing a little bit of that DPS and rate of fire. Now this fit I was inspired by a Evo 9 fit, so this fit is kind of very similar to the Evo 9 fit for this ship. Works kind of almost the same, to be honest, with little differences, but so far it is exactly as I have imagined it to be. If I drop if I drop that large shield booster for a medium one, I can fit that neutralizer, and I can finally fit that scrambler. Again, these modules are primarily for defense against frigates. Should be killing frigates in like 1 or 2 good hits, or in some cases in 1 hit, because these artillery cannons can hurt quite a bit. If you don't want to use the neutralizer, you can also fit Nosferatus. You can actually fit a large Nosferatu. I don't know why I can't, although it should, but for some reason it just does not want to fit. For the rigs, now this is where things get interesting. You can change these rigs and go for full range. You can get around 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers optimal range with the rigs that can improve the weapons range. My current rigs are focused around alpha damage and rate of fire. Also works quite well. If you want to go full range, if you want to commit the ship to be a ship that will use artillery only, then you should go increase the range and the damage, because in range there is safety. You will be outside of the weapons range of almost any cruiser and any battle cruiser, and that will be your primary defense. Now in low slot in the engineering rigs, I placed 1 power grid, and there is 1 auxiliary thruster. Eventually I want to have dual auxiliary thrusters. Again, this ship can be very fast. It can reach velocities of up to almost 4 kilometers per second. On the test server I actually got a 3.7. That's pretty damn close, so this ship can be very fast. And there aren't many ships that can actually chase in the Cynabal. Okay, now let's take a look at the active resistances of the Ashimmu. 544.07 DPS with pulse lasers, that's nice. Now pretty high resistances, right? Pretty high actually, with the highest on explosive and thermal. The other holes are on EM and kinetic, although they're not quite holes, they're equal. It is just that they are a little bit lower than the other two. Cynabal does primarily thermal explosive damage, and also it does a little bit of kinetic damage, so you are going to be shooting the Ashimmu on thermal on the shield. 2 minutes 36 seconds capacitor time. That will be important if you are fighting this ship. It will have to repair itself, it will have to use its own capacitor, and if you are away, if you are at like 45 kilometers from it, then its NOS is not going to be as efficient as if it were in optimal range. So it will not drain your capacitor as efficiently as if you were very close to it. And slowly but surely, if it uses weapons and these hardeners, its cap will go down, and you are going to force the Ashimmu to either call for help or to warp out. As you can see, afterburner speed 830 and the micro updrive speed 1.7 kilometers per second. It is quite slower compared to the Cynabal over here. Speaking of the Cynabal, let's take a look at this ship's active performance, active parameters. Almost 900 DPS with this current build. That's not bad. Almost the same as my cold DPS with autocannons. Quite nice range, quite nice alpha damage so far. Everything is working along the along the lines that I have imagined, so that's good. You should be around 40 to 45 kilometers from all of your enemies. Do not get close with this type of fit to anyone, because this ship will not take a lot of hits. Now, this ship shines in terms of DPS and speed. The Ashimmu simply can't chase the Cynabal around, and you have a major advantage over the Ashimmu in terms of DPS and velocity. If you play carefully, if you maintain your range, if you avoid getting too close to the Ashimmu, in theory you can kill it. Now, one problem is you can't keep the disruptor on the ship, because only 30 kilometer range. Same can be said for the Ashimmu. Both have 30 kilometers range with the disruptor. Now, in theory, again, you can maintain the 30 kilometer distance from the Ashimmu, but that is extremely risky, because the web range of the Ashimmu is 29.9 kilometers. That little inch between 30 kilometers and 29.9 kilometers is that fine line between life and death if you ever engage the Ashimmu with any long-range ship. Now, here I'll demonstrate some mistakes that can happen. Now, if I place 30 kilometer approach and if I charge at the ship over there, then the inertia of the Cynabal will actually put the ship closer than I want it to be. And that little mistake can cost you your ship, because the Ashimmu can web you at 29.9 kilometers. So always put a little bit more if you do a rapid approach, because the inertia will definitely push the ship and it will eat a little bit more kilometers than it should have. As you can see here, I'm approaching this target and going full velocity. Now the ship starts to deaccelerate, and 31 kilometers. Okay, I placed 36, so it ate 5 kilometers. Imagine if this was PvP and if that was a Ashimmu, for example. I would be 25 kilometers from it, well within the range of its webs. And if it were to catch me, I would be toasted. Now, chasing around with the Ashimmu might be fun. This ship's capacitor with the micro drive on is stable, so it can run indefinitely. The weapon range so far, the damage output seems to be quite good. The tactic here is to make the Ashimmu kill its own capacitor by shooting at you or by using the afterburner or the shield booster, because eventually that ship will be dependent on your own capacitor. Ashimmu basically feeds off the enemy ship's capacitors to keep its own capacitor up and running. If you prevent it from reaching you, it can't feed on you, and if it can't feed on you, then it will be in trouble. I personally think that this type of fit works best if you are in a small fleet. You serve as the long-range DPS while other ships are close by and keeping the Ashimmu pinned down. Because in the end, unless you fly a Orthos or a Vigi, those two ships I think are at the moment in the better position to do this job because of the bonuses on disruptors. I'm particularly looking at the Orthos. I think it should have 40 or 45 kilometer range on the disruptor. It also has bonuses on missiles, torpedoes, and I think normal missiles. I will have to take a look at the Orthos again. But the Orthos currently I think is one of the best candidates for this type of build. And as you already know, at the moment that ship is currently not available. Once it is, I'll definitely fly it, because I want to test this idea out on that ship. And by the way, I'm also looking forward for your ideas, opinions on this type of build fit and type of countering. I wanna, see what you guys have to say about this, and I'm curious how far am I from a valid fit for a proper Ashimmu countering, because at the moment, as of me recording this is still kind of experimental. I'm just playing around with different builds, seeing what works, seeing and trying to find out what doesn't work. And with your help, I think we can, get to a very interesting conclusion. Now, so far, I am not taking too much damage. The shield holding out quite well. Capacitor is also holding out, quite well. I am very surprised by the damage output. Did not expect this to work this well. I'm landing some very nice hits. And in theory, those hits will still do damage to the Ashimmu, despite it having good resistances. And slowly but surely, it will chip away its shield. And well, if it has to repair itself, that means its capacitor will also go down. Now, I did the math, and I found out that my DPS fit with autocannons on the Cynabal can eat the shields of an Ashimmu in around 15 to 20 seconds. The DPS is 1500, or eventually it will be 2000, so it can eat the shield of an Ashimmu. The problem with close range combat is that once I lose my capacitor, the Ashimmu can take range, and autocannons have short range, optimal 2 kilometers, fall off at around 15. So once the Ashimmu starts orbiting me at 15 kilometers, I will start to lose range, I will start to lose damage. And it can surpass, its repairing ability can actually surpass my damage output, and that's where I am in trouble, because I will not be able to move away, I will not be able to run away, I would be toasted if I were alone. There is a chance that that build can eat an Ashimmu. I think theoretically it should be, because the DPS is just insane, but it's risky. And well, I don't have the ISK to risk throwing a Cynabal at an Ashimmu. So the other solution would be to use a kite build, a long range build, something like this. And so far, judging by the results that I am getting from this, I think it should work. The main problem here is definitely the inability to keep the ship pinned down. You can't use the disruptor on the Ashimmu. You can use the disruptor on smaller ships that are approaching you, frigates, destroyers. This build can one-shot destroyers and frigates. It just has the alpha to do so. But against the Ashimmu, because of its bonuses, you are not going to be able to apply the disruptor on it. So in that case, in a fleet, it is doable. But solo, you can fight it, but both of you can warp out. And that's also one of the things about this Cynabal. Even frigates will have a problem chasing you, because this ship is just very fast. So frigates, destroyers, and other cruisers that start chasing you will have a very, very bad day, because you can shoot them down with ease. And oh, what happened? Okay, well, my internet just and the ship warped out. If this ship were warping this fast out when it actually needs to warp out, things would have been a lot different. Let's just keep that story for another time. Now, lasers, cannons, and missiles are all kind of interesting. The turrets have, by default, longer range than lasers. That gives you an immediate advantage over them. As for missiles, as for countering ships that use missiles, that can be risky, because missiles, especially the medium missiles, can have 35, 40, 60, 70 kilometer range without a problem. And I think if you orbit at a long range, the velocity should keep you safe from taking any serious damage because of the ship's small signature radius despite its size, and because of the shield boost that will keep you safe in most cases. Overall, kind of, Thorn definitely feels weird to fly this ship this way, although in EVE Online it is quite normal to fly the Cynabal with artillery. Again, this fit has been inspired by a EVE Online fit, so that's where I got the idea for this. Not perfect at all. I still have to work a lot on perfecting this. Might have to change some things. Depends what you guys think about this build, this fit, because I kind of want to see if we can do something about the Ashimmu's superiority on the battlefield. The Ashimmu definitely owns close range and mid-range combat, but at long range it starts to lack. And of course, its velocity isn't the best. The Ashimmu is one of the slower ships, slower cruisers. So if you manage to maintain range from it, then you should be safe in most cases. Now, interesting thing that I've read a couple days ago, people were trying to match up Stabber Fleet issue versus the Ashimmu. Basically, these two ships can have very similar DPS. The Stabber can actually have higher DPS than the Ashimmu. It also has higher velocity. It is pretty much around the same velocity as the Cynabal. And it has good bonuses on turrets, turret range, follow bonus. That means you can also do the same trick with a Stabber Fleet. My Stabber Fleet for fleets has 100 kilometer range with its cannons. Now, interestingly enough, in that scenario, the Stabber Fleet actually won because it had the range and it had the velocity to keep it safe. While if it were to get too close to the Ashimmu, then the Ashimmu would be in trouble. No, I've had a couple encounters with Stabber Fleets. I definitely respect those ships. They are absolutely small monsters. Stabbers might very well be the best tier 6 cruisers in the game because those things are just perfect in a lot of their own fields. And I might actually get one, and I might actually look for an Ashimmu to test that theory out. For now, I'll be sticking to the Cynabal, because so far, as you can see, I didn't take too much damage on the shield. It held out quite good. It's holding out quite well. The other ship that can also utilize this kite, this sniping kite tactic, is Tornado. Tornado 1 or Tornado 2. Those two ships have phenomenal range, and they can be also terrifyingly fast. One of my alliance members has a Tornado that can go around, I think it did hit 3.8, 3.9 kilometers per second. That is quite fast. And yeah, nothing can catch you, even frigates. So if you don't have a Cynabal, or if you don't want to fly a Cynabal because it's expensive, if you don't want to fly a Stabber Fleet because if you have good battlecruiser skills, you want to fly a battlecruiser, you can do the same trick that I'm doing here with this ship on the Tornadoes, because they are, I think, one of the candidates for this type of build. They have both the alpha damage and speed. Speaking of alpha damage, on average this ship hits anywhere from 3000 to 5000. Highest hit ever 8000 recorded that I've had with this build. It really depends on what type of module your target is using. If your target is using a micro warp drive, then you will definitely do more damage because the target will be easier to hit. If they use an afterburner, then you shouldn't be that afraid of the Ashimmu getting too close to you because they are slow by default. And speaking of the Cynabal over here, it is one of the fastest ships in the game, one of the fastest cruisers in the game, and it will be interesting to see what will happen when we get the other faction cruisers available in the game, which will be soon. Looking forward for the other two to join the fun. Well then, that was a very interesting little test that I think I would like to continue with another ship another time. So far, I think I am on a good track. Now, I know that the battle between the Cynabal and the Ashimmu this way would take some time. And I know that the Ashimmu can warp out. I mean, you can also warp out. So there's definitely more to improve on this. We'll definitely work on other ideas regarding this issue. And I think I am going to get a Vigilant very soon. As you can see, I don't have enough ISK for one. I need a lot more. So when I get that ship, I'll definitely be trying the same thing out with that ship. I keep forgetting the Gila. Gila is also one of the ships that can kill the Ashimmu. I've seen Gilas do that. Those things can be very tanky. But it is not safe to be anywhere near an Ashimmu because the Ashimmu owns anything that is close to medium range. So if you want to survive a head-on collision with an Ashimmu, I think at the moment the best solution is to go long range and to outrange the Ashimmu, outmaneuver the Ashimmu, and I guess that's one way to deal with one. We'll try to find out if you can go head-on with it with autocannons, although I feel like that's not gonna end well because, well, the Ashimmu will murder my capacity within seconds. So once again, feel free to suggest your suggestions in the comments down below. I'm looking forward for your recommendations, ideas, tips that can help towards this little idea. And hopefully we will, find something that can actually work and something that can be fun, that can change the battlefield a little bit. Okay, well, hope you enjoyed, and fly safe, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.